Good evening, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please. May I crave your indulgence to give a quick announcement. To the right side, which will be your left side, please, where we have rating UN system, they have been explicitly reserved for principals. So please, we crave indulgence that you allow the principals to take the seats, and then when there are extra seats, you can occupy them. Thank you very much. Good evening, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Please, we would like to request all of you to get seated. We are about to start the program. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jibril Diallo. I'm Regional Director for Western Central Africa for UNAIDS and Coordinator of the United Nations Senior Africans Group, of which Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin was the chairperson. Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, Babatunde, whom many youth leaders within the UN system affectionately called Prof, was a great champion for young people, women and girls. Not only was he dedicated to defending those most vulnerable, Babatunde was committed to uplifting them. Even now, in his passing, he continues to rally us under the blue banner of our chief, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. These past few days, the unity and solidarity I have witnessed from the staff at all levels, system-wide, around Babatunde's vision and voice for humanity, that unity has been a demonstration of the strength of the United Nations in times of adversity and reflection of underlying spirit of the UN Charter. One world. So in this spirit, with the permission of the Secretary General of the United Nations, I would like each of you to rise, please, and reach out and hold the hands of your neighbors, please, so that we can rededicate ourselves individually and collectively to the spirit that Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin fought for all his life. Thank you very much. You may be seated. I have now the pleasure to introduce Dr. Natalia Kanem, Acting Executive Director of UNFPA, for the words of welcome. Natalia Kanem, please.
Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin and the family, dear colleagues, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this celebration of the life and spirit of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, man of great vision, man of great heart, a great statesman of Africa whose reach extended across the globe, a loving husband, father, brother, and friend. He touched the lives of each and every one of us here today, as well as millions of women and young people, especially adolescent girls, around the world. The purest motive, love for humanity, drove his unrelenting commitment to reach the most vulnerable, disadvantaged, and excluded, and to leave no one behind. So now, I'd like to invite you all to turn to a video presentation that captures just a few of the extraordinary moments of his extraordinary life.
Babatunde Osotimehin was born on the 6th of February 1949 in Ijebu-Igbo, southwestern Nigeria, into a big family, a loving household of not just brothers and sisters, but cousins, nephews, and nieces. The son of a teacher, he was an avid learner whose hard-working parents instilled in him the value of education. He attended Igbobi College, Lagos, one of the oldest and most prestigious colleges in Nigeria. After completing his secondary school education, the young Babatunde, raised to be humble and sensitive to the needs of others, set his sights towards becoming a medical doctor and contributing to society. Little did he know that he was already laying the foundation for a life lived in service to humanity. He trained at the foremost University College Hospital in Ibadan, Nigeria, where he qualified to be a medical doctor in 1972. He then proceeded to the University of Birmingham in the UK, where he received a doctorate in medicine in 1979. He was appointed professor of clinical pathology at the University of Ibadan. He was later elected as the provost of the College of Medicine, a position in which he served with merit between 1990 and 1994. Dr. Osotimehin was an eminent scholar. He was a member of the Royal College of Physicians in the UK and a fellow of endocrinology at Cornell University between 1979 and 1980. He was a visiting fellow at the Harvard Center for Population and Development Studies between 1996 and 1997. Driven by his passion to improve the health and well-being of women and young people in Nigeria, he served as the chairman of the National Action Committee on AIDS and as the Director General of Nigeria's National Agency for the Control of AIDS between 2002 and 2008. In recognition for his contributions to the nation, especially his critical role in Nigeria's national response to HIV and AIDS, he was awarded the esteemed honor of Officer of the Order of the Niger in 2005. On the 17th of December 2008, Dr. Osotimehin was appointed the Nigerian Minister of Health. Overseeing a ministry serving 150 million Nigerians, he united all 36 states to build a national health plan focused on primary health care. Dr. Osotimehin became the fourth executive director of UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, on the 1st of January 2011.
I, Babatunde Osotimehin, solemnly declare and promise to exercise in all loyalty, discretion, and conscience the functions entrusted to me as an international civil servant of the United Nations.
During his tenure, he spearheaded efforts by the international community to advance the milestone consensus of the International Conference on Population and Development.
Every woman and man has a right to choice, and every family should be able to choose without coercion how many children they want to have and space them accordingly.
He was never afraid of a challenge. His strong leadership helped keep the health and rights of the world's women and girls high on the global agenda.
It is my conviction that every country has enough resource to look after its people. It is about making the difficult decisions to provide those resources and divert it from other things which, they might have been doing before, and focus on the issues of women and young girls and ensure that they get education and health services. This is immunization.
This is immunization.
In conflicts like this, women and children are the ones who suffer most, and we must continue to ensure that we can look after them and protect them from such calamities.
He understood that the world's 1.8 billion young people are truly its greatest hope for the future.
There are 1.8 billion young people in the world, and most of them are in the developing parts of the world, where they constitute the majority of the population. We believe at UNFPA that our ability to tap into the energies they bring, their vitality, the ability to create and innovate, which can be captured in the demographic dividend, would make growth happen in those parts of the world.
Within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, he vigorously championed a new transformative agenda for the fund: 0 preventable maternal deaths, 0 unmet demand for family planning, and the elimination of harmful practices against women and girls.
We must develop 0 tolerance to women dying given life. And I think that's what UNFPA is committed to accomplishing with our partners and our country partnerships.
His global advocacy and leadership on the demographic dividend, which calls for increased investments in young people's education and health, including their sexual and reproductive health, led the African Union to launch the first ever roadmap to achieving the demographic dividend.
We're happy as an organization to have worked with the African Union in putting together a roadmap for the implementation of the theme of 2017, which is about reaping the demographic dividend in Africa. As a West person once said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Till the very end, he was a tireless advocate for the human rights and dignity of all people, particularly the most vulnerable adolescent girls.
The 10-year-old girl is one we need to protect so that we stop people making choice for them and we allow them the free space to grow.
He will be fondly remembered by his colleagues, the women and young people to whom he dedicated his life to serving, and most of all, by his loving family. Dr. Osotimehin is survived by his wife of 44 years, Mrs. Olufunke Osotimehin, 5 children, and several grandchildren.
It is now my honor to politely request the Secretary General of the United Nations to give us his address, sir.
Dear family and all those close to Dr. Babatunde, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. The news of my good friend Dr. Babatunde's sudden death last week devastated our UN family. Today, we mourn his heartbreaking loss, and we remember his inspiring life. Babatunde was completely devoted to the cause of women and girls, especially those who are most marginalized. He was driven by the conviction that every single family on earth, as we have heard, should be free to decide on the timing and spacing of their children. That no one would suffer from harmful traditional practices, that there will be no more female genital mutilation, no more prenatal sex selection, no more child bribes, and no more maternal death. Babatunde worked day and night to achieve this just future. Let me just share one small anecdote that offers a window onto his dedication. When he was appointed Executive Director of UNFPA, he was due to start at the beginning of 2011. January 1st was a Saturday, so his staff suggested that they put out a press release saying he would be in the office as of January the 3rd. As a matter of fact, that was what happened to me when I became Secretary General. But he completely dismissed the idea. He was ready to start on the 1st, and he did go into the office that day and stayed through the holiday weekend. Babatunde embodied that ethic of service throughout this term, working every day to help people who were suffering. He was a powerful voice, shaping our 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and he continually made UNFPA an even more effective organization that stood as a respected international authority on sexual and reproductive rights. His loss is felt most deeply by his family and by the staff of UNFPA, but his passing is also a loss for the world. The name Babatunde means father comes back. Though he is now gone, I have no doubt this father will come back every time we speak out, as he did for women and girls. Babatunde will be with us every time we champion the rights of individuals and families of all kinds. He will live in our hearts as long as we carry on his fight for justice, for a better world, for all people. Let us honor his memory with the actions Babatunde would have wanted us to take, actions for the sake of others, and especially women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. Representing the President of the General Assembly is Ambassador Decima Williams, who has a special message from the President of the United Nations General Assembly. You have the floor.
Mrs. Olufunko Osotimehin and family, Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General, Acting Executive Director of UNFPA, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to speak on behalf of the President of the General Assembly and members of the President's office who knew, respected, and worked with the late Dr. Babatunde, including myself. Begins. It was with shock and deep sadness that we learned of the sudden passing of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin. We gather here today to honor and to remember this tremendous global leader, Babatunde, as he preferred to be called. His was a life well lived. Babatunde impacted millions of people around the world. As a professor, he cultivated the next generation of top-class doctors. As the Minister of Health, he served Nigeria with absolute dedication. As the Executive Director of UNFPA, He was a steadfast champion of the rights of all. Every person he knew, he respected. Every person he didn't know, he fought for their rights. Such was the measure of the human being we have lost. Here at the United Nations, we will never forget how fearlessly, how forcefully, and how tirelessly he fought for the dignity of women, of girls, and of youth all around the world. I had the privilege as a former president of the United Nations Fund for Population Executive Board and a former chair of the G77 to work closely with Babatunde over the years. His commitment and vision, particularly in his push for the reform of the development system, were undeniable. He wanted to ensure the UN delivered on its promise, particularly to women and youth, and also the most vulnerable. He wanted no one left behind. He was a champion of the Sustainable Development Goals. Babatunde served the international community and his country with exemplary dedication and distinction. On behalf of the United Nations General Assembly, we extend deepest condolences to Babatunde's family, his children, and his wife, and his friends. And we are sorry for your tremendous loss, which we share. We extend condolences also to the staff of UNFPA and to the government and people of Nigeria who have lost an illustrious son. Our beloved friend and colleague, Dr. Babatunde, loved the causes to which he dedicated his life. Let us celebrate his life of service and honor, and let his memory be in us by building upon his legacy. We acknowledge his large and his wonderful spirit, madam. The very best of humanity was in him, and that remains with us, and we hope will remain always. I thank you.
Thank you for that message on behalf of the President of the General Assembly. To offer us prayers now, I call on Dr. Ademola Olajide, please.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin's life. We thank you for a life that is well spent in the service of humanity. We thank you for the opportunity to celebrate his successes. We thank you for the unity that his passing has continued to engender. Almighty Father, we pray for blissful rest for his soul. We pray for strength and comfort for his family and friends. We pray for the help for those of us left behind to continue to strive for those ideals for which he lived. We pray for healing and peace to our world. For this and much more we pray in Jesus' name.
Consider all the works thy hands sons of men. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy path throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow with humble adoration and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
It is now my honor to request a statement from the President of the UNFPA Executive Board, His Excellency Mr. Ib Peterson, Permanent Representative of Denmark to the United Nations.
Members of the Osotimehin's family, and of Deputy Secretary General, UNFPA management and staff, colleagues, and I would say group of friends of Babatunde. In my capacity as President of the Executive Board of UNFPA, it's indeed an honor to address this gathering as we gather to mourn and reflect on Dr. Babatunde's life, his accomplishments, and how he impacted in many ways on so many people's lives. And in that way, it's a time also for a smile and celebration of his life, and gratefulness, not least for having had the privilege to work with him. I met Dr. Babatunde for the first time in Copenhagen in early 2011, shortly after his appointment, and I was immediately struck by his strong determination, clearly the right man in the right place at the right time for the job of leading UNFPA. I feel proud and privileged to say that we got along really well right from the start. He was a partner in spirit, a good colleague, and a dear friend. Dr. Osotimehin took over as Executive Director in the years when the global community was focused on reaching the Millennium Development Goals by 2015. And as we all know, we actually succeeded, except for MGD 3 on maternal health. And he was determined on making sure that we would not let that happen again with the new agenda. His deep knowledge of the situation of women and girls in many developing countries played a critical role in ensuring that these goals, the goal of ensuring every woman and every girl the right to design of their own life, made it into the 2030 agenda. Babatunde understood better than anyone that the real impact is not shaped here in the conference rooms and corridors of the UN headquarters. As we saw on the video, he traveled around the world, even to the most remote places, where he saw and experienced the realities on the ground for adolescents, for youth and women, the vulnerable that had been left behind. And he challenged all of us to act upon the inequality and injustice he saw. He always championed the cause of the most vulnerable and disadvantaged girl and of the woman left furthest behind. His voice was their voice. In my address to the executive board last week, when we all paid our condolences and mourned the news that he had passed away, I used a quote from Dr. Babatunde's statement at our session in February. It was a clear message for him, formulated exactly in the way that he could do it, by stating in concrete and very clear terms what it means to ensure the rights of girls and women. In this case, the 10 years old girl that he also mentions in the video. I will use it again and again, I think, in his spirit. Because just as much as Dr. Babatunde never refrained from speaking in clear and obvious terms of the rights of women and girls, including their sexual and reproductive rights, he also never refrained from repeating that message again and again and again. So allow me to end by this quote. Isn't that what we all want? For every girl everywhere to be able to go and stay in school, to be free from child marriage, teenage pregnancy, and violence, to know and be able to exercise her rights, her full potential right to sexual and reproductive health, to be able to realize her full potential and help us build a better world. I know that's what we all want. That's what the 2030 agenda is all about. And I know together we can make it happen. End of quote. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
The UNFPA family is now going to provide 3-minute tributes by the acting executive director, Natalia Kanem, the deputy executive director management, Laura London, and also 2 partners, Kathy Calvin, the CEO of the UN Foundation, and Melissa Culkin of the Friends of UNFPA. You have the floor, please.
She's coming. Shall I start?
Yeah.
The leader of the United Nations Population Fund, Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, an exemplar in public health, in human rights, a global champion of gender equality, and a staunch defender of the health and rights of women and girls. He understood that it would take men and women working together to achieve equality for all, and that achieving equality for all is the only way forward. And Dr. Babatunde dedicated his life to that goal. He was a superb doctor. He was a mentor and teacher who taught all of us who worked with him to persevere, to persist, even in the face of adversity, to leave no stone unturned in the defense of the dignity and the fulfillment of the potential of the planet's young people. Leaving no one behind was our common mantra, and Dr. Babatunde inspired us to push harder, to leave those who were left the furthest behind. Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, an optimist, he firmly believed in the power of young people to transform our world, and to see him amidst a group of young people anywhere in the world was to see him in his element. Young people gravitated towards him. He listened. He was genuinely interested in their ideas. He respected young people, and he taught us to champion their right to have a seat at the decision-making table. We met in the early 90s on the road to Cairo, when we both participated in the groundbreaking International Conference on Population and Development in 1994. That United Nations gathering in Cairo represented a paradigm shift that placed human rights and women's rights at the center of population and development concerns, and Dr. Babatunde proudly carried that vision and the ideals of Cairo forward. And 20 years later, when he had the distinction of leading the review of the implementation of the Program of Action, he worked with governments, with civil society, with UN partners to move the agenda to an even higher level. And he brought to the fore always the rights and needs of women and adolescent girls and young people who, due to inequality and discrimination, continue to be left behind, and he always pushed for greater progress. His strong advocacy in collaboration with like-minded partners helped ensure that sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights are prominently reflected in the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. He vigorously championed our 3 transformative goals: 0 preventable maternal deaths, 0 unmet demand for family planning, and the elimination of harmful practices and violence against women and girls. And as we all know, he was the champion of the 10-year-old girl everywhere. So, Prof, we thank you for inspiring us, for guiding us, for teaching us. We miss you already. We miss your wise counsel. We miss your humor and your profound love for humanity. May you rest in eternal peace, knowing that your vision, your example, will continue to guide all of us at UNFPA in our determination as your staff to carry forward the torch that burned so brightly in your hands.
The family of Dr. Babatunde, Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, dear friends and colleagues, let me begin with the wise words of Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. To lead in times of challenge and to lead on challenging issues requires extraordinary courage, conviction, and often hard-earned legitimacy. Dr. Babatunde, our executive director, had immense moral courage and an unwavering conviction. His credibility and total legitimacy to stand up and to speak out for human rights, women's rights, as he said, is beyond compare. We in UNFPA will miss his principled leadership for the rights of women and girls and the young that he so fiercely and so fearlessly defended. His impact and influence matched the gravitas of the issues he so ably championed, an influence extending well beyond the size of the organization he represented. His charisma, his bold determination made him a formidable advocate for the sexual and reproductive rights of women and girls, one that only few could deny. He had an uncanny ability to decipher our present and peep into our future. His messages, in plain speak, resonated across audiences. He was at his very best when he was unscripted. He left us too soon, and the impact, the breadth, the depth, and the reach of the loss of our ED is only now slowly sinking in. But his legacy and his unshakable conviction and clarity of focus on the mandate of UNFPA live strong. It lives strong in the organization and in the teams that he held so dear. Dr. Babatunde often recalled fondly having been dubbed an honorary woman, and indeed he was. He will be missed. Thank you.
Family members from Dr. Babatunde, Madam Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, I'm honored to be here today representing Ted Turner, the United Nations Foundation, and the reference group and Secretariat of Family Planning 2020, of which Babatunde was co-chair. We share the grief and the profound sense of loss that others have expressed today, and we believe that the best way to honor Babatunde's memory and his legacy is by renewing our own commitment to work toward a world where every girl and every woman is in charge of her fate and her future. I was struck last week by the outpouring of grief from people from all parts of the world and all walks of life. It's a rare person who is so beloved by both politicians and activists, by both young and old. And it's a testament to Babatunde's ability to engage, connect, and build a movement. As the previous speaker just said, Babatunde often called himself a proud feminist and an honorary woman, especially when he was on an all-male panel. I also considered him an honorary adolescent because of his passion for empowering young people. In 2014, in an essay that he wrote for our project, Why We Care, which was about the relentless commitment so many of us share toward women's reproductive health and rights, he closed with this statement: "In a world of 7 billion and counting, we need to count on each other." Dr. Babatunde, we could always count on you, and now you can count on us to continue your mission to make sure all girls, all boys, all women, and all men can pursue their dreams their own way. Thank you very much.
Osotimehin family, Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire staff and Board of Directors of Friends of UNFPA, I wish to express our sincere condolences to Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin's family, friends, and colleagues with whom we work so very closely. While we are deeply saddened at his loss, we are also determined and committed to keeping his memory alive through our work to build support for UNFPA. Dr. Osotimehin's passing was a profound loss for Friends of UNFPA, not simply because of the work he did to build and strengthen UNFPA, but because of the way he actively supported our efforts to build awareness for UNFPA's work, forging partnerships with individuals and members of the private sector in the United States and around the world. Indeed, he understood the meaning and value of partnership, that for true prosperity, all stakeholders must have a role in global development, whether they be governments, businesses, NGOs, foundations, or individuals. At our last public event in October with Dr. Osotimehin, a reception honoring then United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, Dr. Osotimehin quoted a proverb, which you also heard on the video. "If you want to go fast," he said, "go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Dr. Osotimehin operated by this principle himself, understanding that the entire world needed to forge alliances together for women and girls to achieve true equality. He championed reproductive health to be an integral part of the global agenda. He laid the foundation for the work that we all do, and he led the way forward. At Friends of UNFPA, we have always been motivated by Dr. Osotimehin's dream to create a world where each person can determine their own future regardless of their gender or their background or where they call home. We will continue to remember him as we diligently work with each of you to make his dream a reality.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Babatunde Osotimehin became chair of the UN Senior Africans Group. At the same time, almost at the same time, he became executive director of UNFPA. Until just a few moments before his passing, he was working on the matters in follow-up to a working dinner between the group and the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Amina Mohammed, here present. In fact, on that very day, I sent a message to the group the morning he passed away, distilling the essence of our conversation the day before. For the benefit of everyone in this room, the United Nations Senior African Group is a network consisting of senior African staff at the USG, ASG, and D2 levels, and permanent representatives and observers from Africa and their friends, which serves to coordinate efforts to address issues of common concern between Africa and the world in terms of policies, programs, and personnel. I would like now to call on Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Nguka, Under Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Women, to provide a message on behalf of the UN Senior Africans Group. She will be followed by Mr. Adama Dieng, Under Secretary General, Special Advisor to the Secretary General on Prevention of Genocide. Phumzile, please.
Madam Deputy Secretary General, colleagues, excellencies, and special greetings to the family of Babatunde. Special greetings to the UNFPA family. Please accept our heartfelt condolences as brothers and sisters of Babatunde within the United Nations system, and on behalf of my own institution, UN Women. Today we celebrate a life that touched many people around the world. Someone who saved lives of women and girls and lives of ordinary people. He made a major contribution towards ensuring that reproductive rights and sexual rights are at the heart of the struggle for gender equality and women's empowerment. He walked the talk and helped to amplify the role of men in leadership on the issue of gender equality and support for young people. I often talked to him about the challenges we face on all fronts of the women's agenda. We spoke about the challenges in Africa very often, and we spoke a lot about girls' education and gender-based violence. I will miss those conversations, so will be the many members of the Senior African Group. We will miss his anecdotes that he shared from his rich life and experience, which made us wiser. We referred to each other, me and him, as brother and sister, even in public fora, prompting some to ask if we were related. And we would confirm, yes, we are. Brother and sister from another mother. This public health icon works together with civil society, with governments, with feminists, to continue the transition from the notion of population control to the rights-based notion of reproductive rights. Coming from apartheid South Africa, then we had a Department of Population Control that was geared towards the control of the choices that women could make about their bodies, especially the choices that could be made by Black women, as the regime wanted less Black people and more white people, and many other things. Women endured forced sterilization. This was very far from what is enshrined in the ICPD, in the Beijing Platform for Action, in the SDGs, and in the work and ethos of UNFPA and the UN system in its totality. This change and this engagement of public policy that is people-centered is something that Babatunde worked for and gave to all of us. In my country, when we were changing the laws, this is when I first heard about this professor and a doctor in the 1990s. Little did I know that this was my brother from another mother and we would work together. He has given, not me, but many of us, a lot. We have a great legacy to uphold. And my brother, thank you for your life. You did your part. As we say in my language, indima yako ifezile, lala qhawe. Rest in eternal peace, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Jibril. Thank you for your efforts organizing this event. Brothers and sisters in humanity, my friend Babatunde was a great champion of diversity, and therefore I will speak in French. Comme toutes celles et ceux réunis aujourd'hui pour célébrer la vie, la contribution exceptionnelle à l'humanité et l'espoir qui continue de vivre en chacun de nous, outre le départ soudain de notre cher ami et collègue Babatunde, je suis profondément touché par la peine. Ce départ nous a tous rappelé le besoin d'humilité face à la vie, de recentrer nos efforts pour pouvoir avancer ensemble. Ce départ nous a aussi rappelé cette force de vie qui était celle de notre ami. Ce grand homme dont le parcours s'inscrit dans l'historique de l'humanité a su nous laisser une partie de sa force, de sa dignité, de son engagement, de son honneur et de son respect. Voilà pourquoi aujourd'hui, je tiens à partager avec celles et ceux qui l'ont côtoyé, connu, aimé et respecté comme un collègue, un ami ou un frère, le devoir de reconnaissance. La voix du docteur Babatunde, intervenant comme un souffle mesuré, savait que son rôle était d'éclairer. Son caractère était lointain à toutes ses courses aveuglées par l'égoïsme et l'indifférence. Il savait que la force est le moteur de toute chose, s'ancrer dans l'union et l'égalité, au-delà des divisions ethniques, linguistiques ou culturelles. Il avait fait de l'union et de la diversité la condition sine qua non de son engagement pour la coopération et le développement international, pour le respect des droits humains, pour l'avenir de la jeunesse, afin qu'on lui accorde sa place légitime. Docteur Osotimehin, mon ami et frère de cœur, d'âme et de mots, s'était engagé pour les autres. Certain de répondre à son devoir d'humaniste d'aider les plus vulnérables dont les voix ne portent souvent que d'infimes échos dans l'antre de l'oubli. Je l'ai senti tout au long de mon travail à ses côtés. Cet homme remarquable, porter avec fierté le trait d'union panafricaniste entre notre mère bien trop souvent blessée, l'Afrique et le monde. Il sentait profondément que l'amour et la défense de l'Afrique et des Africains, notamment au sein du Sigma African Group de l'ONU, ne signifiait en aucun cas l'impossible amour et appartenance universelle au monde et aux autres. Le ciel nous a bénis par la présence du docteur Babatunde auprès de nous. Pour revenir sur mes mots d'introduction, la reconnaissance du docteur Babatunde s'inscrit dans notre devoir commun de continuer à être conscient de notre charge envers les autres, dans notre obligation morale de garder un cœur visionnaire et généreux pour les plus vulnérables. Nous sommes aujourd'hui pris par la responsabilité d'aller plus loin, d'arroser les graines du partage, de la justice et de la coopération qu'il a su humblement planter. Babatunde, nous ne t'oublierons jamais et nous nous engageons à investir et faire fructifier ton héritage qui fait notre fierté commune. À sa famille éplorée, à son épouse, ses enfants et petits-enfants, et à tous ses compatriotes, j'adresse au nom du Sigma African Group toutes nos condoléances. Babatunde, que la terre de tes ancêtres te soit légère, que le Tout-Puissant t'ouvre grandement les portes du paradis et que ton âme repose en paix.
I want to thank you, the UN and UNFPA family, most sincerely, for the honor you've done and you're doing by organizing this event in memory of our friend, Professor Babatunde Osotimehin. As you all know, Bob is the nickname that we fondly call him. Bob and I met at the Medical School of the University of Ibadan almost 50 years ago. After graduation, we got married and settled in Ibadan and started our young families. Bob was an incredibly responsible, caring, and dependable friend. His loyalty was remarkable. Of course, a lot has been said about his career, so I don't need to go over that. He was a brilliant student, a brilliant scholar, a physician, medical scientist, and manager of men and resources. He was intelligent and a natural leader, but at the same time, he mixed very freely with high and mighty as well as anybody he came in contact with. Bob was always hardworking, ambitious, and always set a very high standard for himself. Little wonder then that he went from being provost of the Medical School of the University of Ibadan to the Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, to the Federal Minister of Health, and then finally Executive Director of UNFPA, his latest job and calling. As far as I was concerned, this was where he finally seemed to have found his true calling, and in the process, literally became a citizen of the world. He was not a proud man by any chance. He believed most strongly that all his achievements were by and through the glory and grace of God. Bob was a committed Christian. He was a philanthropist, a quiet one, a quiet achiever, a quiet benefactor, and a good and humane person. In Yoruba, his mother tongue, we call such a person an omoluabi. It literally means a man born of God or a man anointed by God. Now, he's gone back to him, his God. He's in a better place. May his soul continue to rest in the bosom of the Lord. Amen.
Thank you. That was a message from a close friend of Babatunde. We are very, very honored to have many principles of the United Nations come and be with us for this tribute, the celebration of the life of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin. So I would like to call on Mr. Michel Sidibé, Under Secretary General of the United Nations, Executive Director of UNAIDS, who insisted on traveling from Geneva, Switzerland to be with us today here. Michel Sidibé, please.
Thank you very much, Jibril, for what you're doing. I want just to say, Babatunde families, my son, you should be proud of your dad. You should be proud. He was a great man. Amina, when she called me very early morning and told me that your friend is gone, I was crying. I'm still crying because I know who he is. I know what Babatunde was doing every day to make a difference in the life of people who are suffering. Thank you, family of UNFPA, for what you have been doing to support him in a very difficult journey. What I want to say will be certainly very short. I want to speak on behalf of wider AIDS community and UNAIDS family. Babatunde will be remembered as a courageous, committed, and passionate, and man with compassion. He was always trying to put vulnerable at the center of his action, of his advocacy. And I will just say that my friendship with Babatunde didn't start in those buildings. I met Babatunde a long time back when Babatunde was involved in fighting HIV/AIDS. Those days where we couldn't even give treatment to people. He was trying by all means to make sure that in Nigeria we can have treatment for those people who are suffering. So we know each other, and I want just to say that on personal note, I will miss him. I will miss the friendship, and I will miss Babatunde's humanity and humility. Thank you for all your effort. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. I would like to call on Ms. Pramila Patton, Under Secretary General, Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict.
Madam Deputy Secretary General, distinguished UN colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as Special Representative of the Secretary General on sexual violence in conflict, I would like to convey my sincere condolences to the family of Dr. Babatunde. His stewardship of the United Nations Population Fund represented the very best in service to the United Nations. He was sincerely committed to ending violence against women and girls, including sexual violence in conflict. He recognized that sexual violence has a profound effect on the rights of those impacted, and that the medical consequences, both physical and psychological, in the aftermath of such violence is a global priority. His support to the United Nations Population Fund's gender-based violence information management system has created lasting change in the response to sexual violence in fragile contexts worldwide. May we use this opportunity to salute his life by carrying forward his work. My predecessor, Mrs. Zainab Hawa Bangura, also sends her condolences from Sierra Leone. She has asked me to deliver the following remarks on her behalf. Dr. Babatunde was more than a great colleague. He was a great friend. He dedicated himself to a life of service, healing, and care of the most vulnerable. I could count on his support and wisdom at the United Nations Population Fund in carrying out my mandate as Special Representative of the Secretary General on sexual violence in conflict. His commitment to women and girls in conflict was exemplary, and I saw personally how his leadership of UNFPA changed lives by restoring health, dignity, and hope to so many. In this difficult time for his family, friends, and colleagues, let us all reflect on the many lives that Dr. Babatunde changed for the better. Thank you.
Under Secretary General Anthony Lake has been a very close friend of Babatunde. He is the Executive Director of UNICEF. And I'd like to take the advantage through you, sir, to thank Fatima Njai for being such an active member of the United Nations Senior Africans Group and for all your support. Mr. Anthony Lake, please.
I hope that Babatunde's family and his friends and all UNFPA staff know that my UNICEF colleagues from all around the world join me in sharing your grief, and so many have told me so in the last few days. I know, as we've heard, we're all inspired by the example he set as a leading voice in global health, as a constant champion for women and girls and the world's poorest and most disadvantaged, and as a good colleague and a good friend. As friends, we enjoyed our times together, and as colleagues, we enjoyed a sense of mutual trust, the trust that must animate all of us at the UN as we work together to protect all the rights of women and girls and achieve results for all those most in need. The partnership between UNFPA and UNICEF has lost a leader, but as we have discussed, I can assure you that that partnership will endure our loss. Let me be a bit personal for a moment. When we lose a friend, we're flooded with memories, snapshots of time spent together. And Michelle, I will always cherish, in particular, the image of sitting on a sofa with my brothers, Michelle and Babatunde, absolutely lost in helpless laughter. I don't remember what we were laughing about, you remember, but I do know I will always hear Babatunde's laugh. When someone passes so suddenly, we ask ourselves what we wish we had said to the one we lost. I last spoke with Babatunde 2 weeks ago, just days before he passed. I wish I'd told him then how much I appreciated him and how much I always enjoyed complaining to him about the way his national attire made my national dress look so boring. But rather than focusing on what was left unsaid, I think Babatunde would prefer that we ask ourselves what we can do, all of us, to reach more people with the help and the hope and the health that every person deserves, the poorest and the most in need, women, girls. In their lives and in their laughter, we will find the legacy and the spirit of Babatunde himself, whose concern for them was unending, whose efforts on their behalf was unceasing, and whose life and example we must not forget, and we will not. I miss you, Babatunde.
One of the favorite hymns of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin is titled, "It Is Well With My Soul," and the next video tells the story behind it.
When peace like a river and attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, and whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, and it is well, it is well with my soul, and it is well with my soul, and it is well, it is well with my soul, and my sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought, my sin not in part, but the whole, was nailed to the cross, and I praise the Lord. is well. And Lord, haste the day when the face shall be sight, and the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, and the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend, and even so, dead is well with my soul, Dead is well, it is well with my soul, and it is well, it is well with my soul.
Thank you. It is now my honor to call on Dr. Tijani Mohammed Bande, Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations. You have the floor, sir.
The DSG, senior official of the UN system, the family of our friend, Professor Osotimehin, colleagues, Nigeria joins the UN system and indeed the world in both mourning and celebrating the life of our friend, Professor Babatunde, as we called him fondly. It has been in this gathering today barely whispered that he was a Nigerian. We take no offense. We take pride in having produced him. His commitment, competence, and compassion have been attested to by all, led by the Secretary General himself. What testimony do we need that for today we are proud to give him to the world? In Nigeria, Prof was a distinguished teacher, health professional, administrator, and not so well, politician. But there is no mistake in my recollection. His work at the University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital, popularly called UCH, the primary and principal training institution for postgraduate studies in medicine in West Africa, probably on the continent. And his stewardship of NACA was really what we remember him for. It was hard work. Both these trusts were extremely hard and difficult. And there's no question in our mind, it was such quality of that work that made him attractive to the world system. We said we are not here to just mourn, but principally to celebrate. Nigeria is gladdened by the statements by all about celebrating him in carrying out and continuing the work he did, which in a way he gave his life to. And we can only affirm that it is the same commitment to carrying out his work that has been expressed by Nigeria. Nigeria must also thank all of you for rallying around us and the family in this hour of loss of a great Nigerian and world figure, family man, politician, public servant, eminent health professional. We can only say we thank you for easing our burden somewhat. But we take pride and we thank God for the family, which will continue. I've seen already a young Dr. Babajide, and he has a big task ahead of him, as was his sisters. We can only pray that God will guide them to excel, to do not less than he has done, difficult as that would be. May his soul rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Tijani Mohamed Bande, for that statement. The next speaker is part of the Africa Group, and at the back of your programs, you have the co-organizers of this event, which has been held under the tireless efforts of the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, with full support from the Secretary General, the Chef de Cabinet. And in fact, the head of the office of the Deputy Secretary General was in touch with her by SMS as we are in the organizing committee, so she can continue to give us her guidance. So the Africa Group is a co-sponsor of this event, organized by the UN Senior Africans Group, jointly with UNFPA, the family, the United Nations Secretariat, the UNFPA family, the Permanent Observer Mission of the African Union to the United Nations. So I'd like to call on His Excellency, Mr. Raymond Serge Ballet, Permanent Representative of Congo to the United Nations, to make his statement, please. You have the floor.
Madame Deputy Secretary General, Dr. Babatunde's family, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my sad duty to represent the group of African states at the United Nations on the ceremony of posthumous tribute to the memory of the late United Nations Population Fund Executive Director, Professor Babatunde Osotimehin, who passed away on Sunday, 4th June 2017. To many of us, particularly family members, friends, colleagues, that very day of Sunday 4th was overshadowed by the tragic demise of an eminent son of Africa. On this solemn and special occasion dedicated to his life, I would like, on behalf of a group of African states at the United Nations and my own, to express our heartfelt condolences to his family, our colleagues of the Nigerian missions, the government and the people of Nigeria, and the staff of UNFPA. In the present circumstances, the African Group, through my voice, join you in your acknowledgement and stand to express its solidarity and compassion to his family, colleagues, in this painful time. Today, as we celebrate the life and spirit of Professor Babatunde, there could not be a more inspiring and touching homage than one paid by his children,
nephews, and nieces in a video shared on a social network. Living and moving pictures enroll the life of greatness in which we recognize a brother, a teacher, an ambassador, a friend, a lover of humanity, a father, a loving husband. We can see through Dr. Babatunde's caring eyes the face of women, of youth worldwide, a mentor, a director, an icon. But behind every single word that highlights the great life of Professor Babatunde, there are many great things he achieved as the most senior African Under-Secretary General and UNFPA Executive Director. Professor Babatunde's leadership and advocacy for the health and rights of women, girls, and marginalized were emblematic of his action to saving and transforming lives and empowering people, especially the young. Professor Babatunde helped the world advance the landmark 1994 Cairo Program of Action on Population and Development. He will be remembered by the African group as a statesman and worthy son of Africa who, in particular, engaged and prevailed with the African leadership on important issues affecting the continent and its people, mainly Africa's Agenda 2063 and the UN 2030 Agenda. Madam Deputy Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to honor the memory of a great man who stood as global leader of public health, women's empowerment, and young people. A great man who dedicated his career at the UN in promoting human rights, including sexual and reproductive health and rights, as well as population and development. As a plea for the preservation of his legacy, let me refer back to my colleague's recent thoughtful concluding speech when addressing the UNFPA Executive Board. Quote, "It would only be fitting if the international community carries on its legacy and ensures that women, girls, and youth achieve their potential and contribute to the society at large. The African group urges the UNFPA to honor Professor Osotimehin by continuing his grand vision for women, girls, and young people, and especially standing up for the human rights and dignity of everyone, particularly the most vulnerable in our society. His life and countless accomplishments should inspire us to work harder and finish his agenda to ensure that the rights of women and girls of all people are promoted and respected," unquote. Professor and dear brother Babatunde, may your soul rest in peace.
Thank you very much. I now call on His Excellency, Ambassador Yasha Temu Olu Aliyev, for a tribute from the Republic of Azerbaijan, please.
Dear family of Dr. Babatunde, Madam Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, dear colleagues, dear staff of UNFPA, on behalf of my government, I express our deep sorrow and sadness over the sudden passing away of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, and I would like to express our profound condolences and sympathy to the family, to the people in government of Nigeria, and UNFPA staff. We lost a great leader, outstanding personality, dear colleague and friend. I met the late executive director on numerous occasions, and I always impressed by his leadership, strong commitment to a life of service to people, especially women, girls, and youth. He was an ardent advocate for human rights and tirelessly devoted his life to alleviate the suffering of people. He was a champion of health and rights of women and girls. Undoubtedly, for this purpose, we would like to offer an idea how to preserve his legacy, especially for coming generations. In this connection, I would like to present an idea to establish a UNFPA award named after Professor Babatunde Osotimehin for individuals and institutions who will be recognized for their exceptional accomplishment for promoting rights of women and girls, especially in area of reproductive health and reproductive rights. I believe it is the right way for us to honor and remember the life, legacy, and dedication of this great man. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin touched many hearts around the world. And now we have a short video, a contribution by those who have been touched by his work, by his actions. Video, please.
First met Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin in 2013 when he was in Botswana for an official visit, and we instantly nicknamed him Dr. BBT. And not just because we struggled with pronouncing both his names, but because he was so friendly, engaging, and interacting with all of us, the young people who were there for his meeting. And we're actually quite shocked, wondering if he's really the UNFPA Executive Director because of how friendly and open he was. And we also developed the Dr. BBT Challenge, and this is where he challenged all the young people who were present to each come up with an initiative that would impact 5 more people in our societies. And that was based on the discussions that we'd had with him. And over the years, I was highly privileged to be able to interact with him at different global platforms, and probably the most memorable being in 2015 during the UNSG's high-level retreat on the global strategy for every woman, every child, and every adolescent everywhere. I believe I speak on behalf of many young people across the world through our alliances, youth organizations, and our work with UNFPA in saying that he was an incredible man. He was a great leader, always inspiring and motivating to listen to, but also a great listener. And then also there was something very fatherly about him, in the sense that he's the kind of person who'd want to know whether you had a pleasant flight or you were happy with your logistical arrangements before he went on to ask you about the meeting and your presentation. He may not be there anymore, but definitely his legacy lives on. His work remains outstanding, and it'll continue to inspire actions, particularly for delivering on the sexual reproductive health and rights of women and girls across the whole world. My condolences to his family and friends and colleagues, and may he rest in peace and power.
Babatunde était pour nous un directeur, un mentor, un grand frère, un papy avec des qualités exceptionnelles. Il nous a montré la voie du salut. Connaissant les problèmes auxquels la jeunesse africaine fait face, il a toujours plaidé en faveur de nous, jeunes Africains. Nous te disons adieu avec beaucoup de tristesse. Les mots nous manquent pour exprimer notre gratitude envers l'homme que tu as été pour nous. Repose en paix, cher Babatunde.
It is my honor to now call on the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Her Excellency, Madam Amina Mohammed.
Thank you very much. The family of Professor Babatunde Osotimehin, Desma, my sister, representing the PGA, my brother, the PR of Nigeria, the Africa Group head, excellencies, friends, colleagues, but most especially his very special family, UNFPA. So much has been said, and so it just, words of comfort for all of us here. And I think that this evening it's almost as though we don't want to leave the room because it makes us feel as though we're still here and he's still around and it's okay. So thank you to all of those that have given such wonderful words of comfort to all of us, and I hope to the family, because the loss is really, truly mostly yours. It was such a shock, and even more painful because he was my friend and my big brother, and I extend my condolences to the family, the friends, colleagues in Nigeria and beyond. When I first joined the UN in 2012, he was here to welcome me and support me and inspire me. It was a continuation of what he did for me when he was in NACA, when he was the Minister of Health, and I was just the special assistant on the MDGs in Nigeria trying to spend $1 billion a year. And he was very helpful in telling me which way to direct it, family planning, line item in the budget. He was very convincing. And then when I got here, he was the man that when they said there were a couple of hard nuts to crack and I needed a soft landing, and so could he speak to these two people, and guess who they were? Well, one isn't here today, that was Helen Clark. As we shaped the 2015 agenda, hard nut to crack, it was Babatunde who would take her out to lunch and then tell me, you can see her now. And the other one was Tony Lake. And all because of really the passion that you had, and it was so full of conviction. And he would say, okay, I will talk to him, and there'll be no problem. He's a great guy. You can speak to him. So he'd have lunch with Tony, and then the next lunch would be Amina and Tony. So thank you, Prof. He really was a remarkable man and dedicated and a wise person who served humanity, as I said, 24/7. He didn't sleep. His last email to me was on Friday as I was coming back from Geneva. And he was worried about how quickly we could get things done and, what was taking so much time to talk about every woman, every child, and how we would begin to implement it at the country level. How quickly could we move from the principals meeting on the gender initiative with the EU to making sure that we got it in the right places and girls and adolescents and women mattered. And the 2030 agenda began to be rolled out. And he did make a huge difference in people's lives, some that we will never hear from, but some that we have, and I know that his passing has been felt by everyone. Those that don't even know yet will continue to be shocked and remind us of the role he played in their lives. He was a champion of a life of dignity for all, and that's why he was so humble, is because he understood dignity and how, when taken away from you, you were deprived of so much, and he tried to give that back to our women, to our girls, and to our adolescents. So his passing is a terrible loss. But I know that we can all take heart, because he did leave a remarkable legacy of everything that he's done that we've heard today and that we've yet to hear. And we can see it in the eyes of young couples who plan their families thanks to his advocacy. We can see it in the girls who are spared FGM thanks to his strong leadership in times when everybody would say, are you the one who's going to save the world? What is it? Is it you that must do this? This is very uncomfortable. Your family will be affected. But he would go out and he would say it with conviction because he believed in it. And I think that, not many people have the courage of their conviction. And so we thank him for showing us that it is possible and that we can still also see it in the eyes of mothers who survive childbirth, thanks to his principled activism. We're never going to be able to measure just how much he did for our world, but we know it's immense and it is invaluable. And now it's up to us, families, friends, colleagues, to sustain this and to do even better, to fill those shoes and to go higher and higher, because that's what he wanted to support. This is one gentleman who was not competing with anyone. He supported anyone and everyone who could get to the goal. And we're not there yet. And so we will finish that last mile from him. Today, the grief that we have is a manifestation of how much respect and admiration he fostered. But it's also a memory that will help us, inspire us to do so much more. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to those that are closest to us, those at home, and I hope that you will know that you should be so, so, so proud. I know you are, but just for us to tell you, to tell your family, your mom, everybody, the grandchildren, please tell the grandchildren, because he always talked about them. You say several because he, after all, is in charge of population, and so it was better that he said several. And so as I came here, I would never quite know. He was prof, I was a DSG, he was the head of UNICEF, but to me, he was Kabiesi. And so I will just say to him, go in peace. It is well with your soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Before I call on the representative of the family, I would like to recognize the hard work of a colleague, Ni Ojulape, who served as our connection with the family, and he was supported by Kunle Adeniyi. Ni Ojulape, please stand up so that we can just thank you for all your work that you have been doing. Thank you very much. And Kunle Adeniyi, please. Thank you. Thank you. It is now my distinct honor to call on Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, son of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, to take the floor on behalf of the family.
Good evening. My name is Babatunde Osotimehin, and I'd like to thank Mr. Secretary General, Madam Deputy Secretary General. I'd like to thank all dignitaries present here today. I'd like to thank the UNFPA family. I'd also like to thank the senior African group and everyone that was involved in putting this together. Thank you very much. As you can imagine, I'm distraught that I lost my father. I'm his only son, and I was the first to know that he died, obviously, because I was there. To you, is professor, to me is daddy. But you've done something for me tonight. I'm very proud of him. Somehow you've turned my sorrow into joy. Thank you very much. From my family, from the Osotimehin family, I thank you all. God bless you, and God bless the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking time this Friday evening to join us in celebrating the life and spirit of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin. Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, for honoring the spirit of Babatunde with your presence. When we were discussing the arrangements on the program, we consulted the Deputy Secretary General's office, and the Deputy Secretary General indicated that she wanted to stay all the way to the end, and the statement was where she was. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Secretary General. Thank you for your strong mobilizing support that allowed us to come together and send off Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin. Thank you very much, UN principals, head of United Nations agencies, programs, and funds, for joining with celebrating the life of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, and for allowing the wide latitude of your staff to organize and support this event. Thank you, member states of the United Nations, for representing the world, which Babatunde was committed to serving up to his last breath. Let me take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to the joint organizers with the United Nations Senior Africans Group, the offices of the Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General, the Office of Protocol and Human Resources Management, especially the strong support from Victor Kissob, Acting Secretary General of HRM, UN Conference Services, UN Safety and Security, the UNFPA family, the Permanent Observer Mission of the African Union to the United Nations. Ambassador Tete Antonio, please stand up so that we can say thank you to you. You have been such a mobilizing force, Ambassador Tete Antonio. Member states, which includes support throughout the Secretariat, agencies, programs, and funds. In less than 12 days following the passing away of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, all of you mobilized to put this together. In his short 6 years serving as Executive Director of UNFPA, Babatunde's courage and leadership, as expressed this evening, inspired respect and reverence for human dignity and worth. Babatunde, as was expressed this evening again, was a person of humility and action. Even as Under Secretary General of the United Nations, Babatunde saw himself as a foot soldier for the United Nations under the leadership of the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General. Babatunde understood that we have one world, no other option, and no time to waste. And as the Secretary General of the United Nations emphasized in his own inauguration, we want the world our children inherit to be defined by the values enshrined in the United Nations Charter. And those values are peace, justice, respect, human rights, tolerance, and solidarity, end of quote. Today we have heard many accounts of Babatunde's great achievements and contribution to humankind. I'm sure that he is right now sitting somewhere above, watching us and smiling, saying, "What are you doing telling me what I've done? Tell me you will do and go out and do it, rather. I prefer that." When talking about his work at UNFPA, Babatunde liked to say, when we know what to do and we know how to do it, these investments save lives, empower women and girls, strengthen health systems, and have a profound and lasting impact on development. Babatunde's unwavering support for women and girls was always on top of his agenda and his word. Babatunde was also a visionary, as was mentioned here, and with that, I would like to also mention that the burial of Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin will be held in his home country of Nigeria on the 21st of July, and I would like to thank you for taking time to join the family of the world to celebrate the life and legacy of Babatunde Osotimehin. Thank you very much.
I've been praying for such a long time, praying for some peace of mind. Here I am, Lord, my heart and my soul, praying you take control. Somebody's praying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's praying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's praying, Lord, to come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. Pray, Lord, come by here. Somebody pray, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. Somebody rejoicing, Lord, come by me. Somebody rejoice, come by me. Somebody rejoice, Lord, come by. Oh, Lord, come by. I've been praying for such a long time, praying for some peace of mind. Here I am, Lord, my heart and my soul, praying you take control. Somebody needs you, Lord, to come by here. Somebody needs you, Lord, to come by here. Somebody needs you, Lord, to come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Come by Oh, magnify the Lord, for he is worthy to be praised. Magnify the Lord, for he is worthy to be praised. Hosanna, blessed be the rock, blessed be the rock of my salvation. Hosanna, blessed be the rock,
salvation. Hosanna, blessed be the rock, blessed be the rock of my salvation. Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed be the rock, blessed be the rock of my salvation. Bread of life, sent down from glory. Many things you were on earth. Oh, the King of carpenters. You are the living word. Bread of heaven, sent down from glory. Many things you were on earth. Oh, the King of carpenters. You are the living word. Awesome ruler, gentle redeemer. God with us, the living truth. And what a friend we have in you. You are the living word. Jesus, Jesus, that's what we call you. Manger born, but on a tree you died, save humanity. Oh, you are the living word. Oh, 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 you are the living word. Hey, yeah, your presence, your glory, you're welcome here. All honor, dominion, Lord, please come near. We want you, we need you, and we live to glorify your name. Glorify May your favor rest upon me. Establish the work of my hands. May your grace always go before me and give me strength to stand. May your favor rest upon me. Establish the work of my hands. May your grace always go before me and give me strength to stand. Cover me with your love. Cover me with your power and peace that passes understanding, and I will know you're near. Cover me with your love. Cover me with your power and peace that passes understanding, and I will know you're near. Oh, I will know you're near. Oh, and I will know you're near. Amen, 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 amen. Oh, amen, amen. I never gave you one?